The San Jose Sharks, unfortunately, give a valiant effort tonight, but come up short in the shootout. And so do their playoff chances officially come to an end. We'll break it all down. We'll bring up a bright spot in the organization. We're looking at you, Thomas Bordeleau. And more right now. This is Teal Town After Dark. Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday night, April 14th, 2022. The San Jose Sharks lose to the Chicago Blackhawks 5-4 in a shootout. And we welcome you to this edition of Teal Town After Dark. This is your live interactive Sharks postgame. We do this after every game, so if you want to be part of the show, here's how you do it. Chat with us and fellow Sharks fans and hockey fans all over the world on our YouTube page or the app. And, of course, follow us on the social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube, SoundCloud, Reddit, Discord, and find everything at tealtownusa.com. I am Eric Curra, and with me tonight, Mr. Ian Reed.
Hello.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. The Sharks lose this one by a score of 5-4. Your initial thoughts on anything that comes out of this now 8-game winless streak?
I didn't think this was a terrible game for the Sharks. Like, I really didn't. I know, like, obviously it's an 8-game losing streak and things aren't good and people are angry and it's fine. I mean, angry and happy at the same time, right? Because it's like a point, but it's another loss. And obviously, with the Sharks being officially eliminated from playoff contention, even though they were eliminated a long time ago, if we're all being completely honest with ourselves, like, yes, okay, the math eliminates them now, but
right.
Like, it wasn't like they were going on a run. Although they said they had one run left in them, I guess. I don't know when it's coming. I mean, maybe now that they're out, we'll get on that run. I didn't think this was a terrible game. Was it a great game? No. But I didn't think it was a terrible one either. And if this game happened earlier in the season, like, my takeaway from it would probably be, yeah, things are really shit, but they probably about to turn. Of course, that's the worst thing that could happen to the Sharks now that they're, again, officially eliminated. But that's like the worst thing could happen to them now is for things to turn, and now they go on a run. But this is the kind of game where I think if this happens early in the season, you might go, yeah, this sucks. Like, this is 8 in a row. But I would think that maybe things were going to turn a little bit for the better. Because obviously 8 games is a long run to be losing, right?
Yeah, they hit one of these last year, and that kind of really killed their chances in the playoffs this year, or this past season, 2021. 8-game winless streak. You can't have that if you want to try to say that you want to contend for the playoffs. But you know, it is what it is. Unfortunately, the Sharks, they finally get over that two goal plus hype for offensively, and this is what comes of it. But let's get to the recap. The Sharks' third game of a 5-game road trip. They lost 7 in a row. Chicago, entering this one, had lost 8 in a row.
Yeah,
something's got to give.
Something had to give. Unfortunately, not in the Sharks' way, and that's for the better, right? Because again, they got 1 point, which is 1 point too many, but they still lost. So go Team Tank.
I guess we're all pretty much on Team Tank now, are we right? And it started early. Patrick Kane, a minute 18 in from Strome to DeBrincat, makes it 1-0. Rough start, and again another. I hate to say that we're back on the track of allowing a goal in the first 5 minutes, but here go the Sharks again, falling behind. Again, early in a game.
Yeah, I mean, pretty brutal play. Brent Burns obviously, instead of getting a shot through, hits a defender. It goes back the other way. Then he starfishes himself out of the play like we've seen him do a billion times. And James Reimer is not up to the task of stopping the shot, right? Like I'm not blaming James Reimer here. I think James Reimer played a good game. And I think, we've gotten better goaltending from James Reimer than the Sharks have deserved most of the year. I shudder to think what this team would look like. Like I feel like if it wasn't for James Reimer, then maybe at this point I'm on here and I'm just screaming and swearing, right? And I haven't really done that a lot this year. There's been a couple of games, but not a lot. And James Reimer is a big part of that, because I feel like, James Reimer has given this team a chance to win so many games, even tonight.
Yeah,
I don't want to blame him for the game, but would he probably want them back? Maybe, but again, I'm not gonna get on James Reimer now. Like, James Reimer has made this team somewhat respectable all year.
It makes,
when it had no business being so. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna say, it makes you wonder where this team would be without Reimer on this night, and the workload that Reimer's been dealt with all season, with Hill being out, on and off again. There was a little bit of time where you had Sachenko come in. Of course, you remember the disastrous of putting in Stalock in for a game. Kudos to him for having the workload that I don't think he's ever dealt with before, to hang in there. And yeah, he's going to have some stinkers here and there. But I thought he was okay tonight. It wasn't like lights out, although he had some nice chances overall. So that made it 1-0 after, just a minute 18 in, and then Timo Meier finds a loose puck to make it a 1-1 with his team leading 32nd. Hertl and Burns get on there. Offensively, overall, I mean, what was the difference tonight for this team to get over that 2 or less height?
I mean, luck. I think like that Timo Meier goal, right? Like that was just a lucky break for Timo Meier to get the puck where he got it, and he's not gonna miss it there, right? And like sometimes that you just kind of need something to break your way, and that's what happened for the Sharks there. I think as the game went on, I thought that they were doing a better chance. I put out a tweet somewhat during the game. It's like where I was like, it's really unfortunate that the Sharks have not really had a lot of pressure around the net, because I thought Lankinen gave up some really juicy rebounds. And by the end of the game, it looked like the Sharks had keyed in on that fact too. And they were in better positions to take advantage of some of those juicy rebounds that Lankinen was giving up. And I think that's what helped them get back into this game. But up at this point, they, just luck.
Yeah, that made it 1-1. And then a couple minutes later after that, Stillman from Chicago puts a big hit on Barabanov in the near boards. He would miss the rest of the period. Of course, that would lead to VL going yada and drop the gloves like a few seconds later after that. So you have 1-1 after one period. I didn't see anything in particular. Did you see where Šimik may have gotten hurt? He did not return to this game after the first period.
No, I don't know, man. I feel really bad for Šimik because he's obviously had a hard time getting into this lineup, and he's had just a really shit run of injuries, right? And obviously when you're a guy making as much money as Šimik's making, when the blue line as a whole is eating up as much money as it's taking up, it's super problematic, right?
Yeah. I mean, you had him go down, of course, Barabanov go down, and Nieto would get hurt in this game. I don't recall seeing him after the third period, so that's frustrating to see. They're running out of bodies.
Yeah. 1 second.
You're good. You got it. We'll move on. Balcers would take a slashing call about 2 minutes in. Nothing would really go on early on in the period until later on after McCabe takes a shot at VL that looked like a questionable checking from behind call. Gregor says, why I oughta. VL's like, well, how dare you? Cross-checks him. McCabe would get a roughing, and somehow Chicago ended up with a power play after all that.
Yeah. The officiating in this game was pretty suspect. I mean, it wasn't good. Like, it wasn't completely brutal. Like, it wasn't like Chicago had like a million power plays to the Sharks one or whatever, right? But I just like some of the way they came out with it, like the Sharks somehow getting an extra penalty out of that situation, I guess, right? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't the story of the game though.
No.
Like, it was definitely suspect, but definitely not the story of the game either.
No, it wasn't the end all be all. Although, granted, Radish would get his 9th in the season on the power play from Jones and Patrick Kane to make it 2-1. It kind of started the floodgates a little bit with the goal scoring in this one, though, because then, right after that, Scott Reedy would get a nice shot. It would go off of a Chicago defender to tie it up at 2. Nice to see that line kind of come together.
So I'm just reading some of the Bugner comments.
Gotcha. But from Nieto,
sorry, go ahead.
From Nieto and Shimolevsky, that made it 2-2. What in the Bugner comments are you seeing?
Oh, just how I don't know. He's just how he's saying, like, because they haven't scored a lot of goals lately, I thought they tried to force some things and it cost us. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I don't think that they were. I don't know. I didn't see that. No, I'm not an NHL coach and whatever, but I don't know. I didn't think that there was a lot of, at least as the game progressed, because I thought earlier in the game, like, I thought the one thing that was really interesting was how easily, for a stretch there, Chicago was just turning the Sharks around at their own blue line, and it wasn't like the Sharks were trying to do anything super complicated. It was just that the Blackhawks, it was simple. It was simple. Take the check, take the stick check, get the puck off the guy, quick pass out. And that was it. And the Sharks kind of got turned around by that a couple of times before they finally were able to start getting more into the offensive zone. And I don't know, like, it wasn't like, again, I don't think it's because the Sharks were trying to do anything overly fancy or anything. I just think that they were the simplicity of Chicago's breakout, because again, look at, like, Chicago's not a good team, right? They just lost, they just got finished ending their own 8-game losing streak that now the Sharks are on theirs. And so it's like simple plays, I think, is something that the Sharks are missing. I know when you have guys like Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson on your blue line, you think, oh, well, we can do all this, this super complex stuff, but I don't know, man. I think, like, defensively, at least early in the game, I think the Sharks could probably learn something from watching just how easily Chicago was turning around at their blue line, because they're just making the simple play.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I get that they're both, Burns and Karlsson, are looking for that, like, that nice headman pass or finding that perfect connection to get their opponents on their heels. But yeah, the simple plays, the simple breakout, and that can go a long way as well, for sure. So Reedy would make it 2-2. McCabe was like being a butthead all night. He starts talking with Milosh. They get unsportsmanlike penalty. And then that
Reedy, that's the thing though. But even the Reedy goal, like, it was a lot of just, like, simplifying the game, right? The taking the shot, and you get a like, obviously it didn't go straight in. You get a deflection, it goes in the net. Like, I think the Sharks could benefit a lot from just simplifying their game.
Yeah, it can go a long way. I mean, I get why they're trying it, but at the same time, simple stuff. And if you can't do the simple stuff, then you enjoy your exit interview in a few weeks. Chicago would get a goal late in the second period. Calvin DeHaan from Kane there, like, a minute 18 left in the period. And it's just one of those, again, it's one of those things we've seen in the last few years where the last minute goals on top of the first minute goals.
Yeah, I mean, and that line for Chicago made the Sharks look stupid all night. Like, the way that a lot of really skilled players on that line, right? Like even Dylan Strome, who hasn't turned out to live up to where he was drafted. Because I don't think his skating was never going to be NHL good. But that line, still a lot of high-end skill on that line, and they showed it tonight. Like every time that line was on the ice, things were going the way, that the Chicago wanted them to go. And Alex DeBrincat, I've been on the Alex DeBrincat hype train for a long, long time. And tonight I think a lot of people saw why. And if you've watched any Chicago games, like you'll see it. Like Alex DeBrincat is insanely good, and it's funny because Alex DeBrincat, when he was drafted, he fell to the second round because either he was too small or, and here's the interesting part, right? Like because he played with guys like Dylan Strome and Taylor Radish, who also got a goal tonight for Chicago. But if you look at like who's excelled in the NHL, it's been DeBrincat. And the long time thought on DeBrincat was, well, he's too small and he's also benefiting from those guys. And he did also play with some Connor McDavid guy who apparently turned out to be pretty good.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's all right. Right. So like, but Alex DeBrincat, was always, a lot of people always said, oh, well, he is just getting the points off of those other guys. And it's funny how, and I don't think like Taylor Radish, obviously, I think he has like 9 goals this season or something like that. So, not a bad season for finally breaking into the league, but, obviously look at DeBrincat came in and lit the Chicago Blackhawks on fire scoring wise. So it's just funny how sometimes how those things turn out.
Yeah. I really like DeBrincat, and he's at 39 goals on the campaign. It's going to be he's one of those guys where I guess there was like a little argument between him and Kane. I'm like, oh, that'd be a nice get, but we all know Chicago won't give that up. But I have him on my fantasy squad, so I really like his offensive skills, and he'll be a great addition for Chicago to torment the Sharks for years to come.
He's good. Like when Chicago figures out whatever they're doing, like Alex DeBrincat's going to be at the head of it.
If not, I'd be stunned.
Mm-hmm.
Third period, Strome would make it a 4-2 game from Jones and DeBrincat. For DeBrincat, 3 assists on the night for him. But then about a minute and a half later, Sharks find some life. Balsers, gets his 9th from Couture and Carlson to make it interesting.
Yep. Again, good play. Again, it's good play, but simple play, right?
Right.
Don't overthink it. You have the puck, take the shot. Don't look for the pass. Don't stick handle it for 3 minutes looking for the perfect angle to shoot from. Just shoot the bloody puck. And that's why I think the Sharks had a lot of success tonight, was when they started to simplify their game, look for, and just look for shots. Because at this point, again, they have nothing to gain, but they have nothing to lose at this point,
exactly.
Right? You might as well just take the easy play. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, well, then go back and play some defense. But, again, I think that the Sharks, that was their success tonight. And I think if, again, I feel like if this is a game where we're in the middle of the season, right? Like this, you say, okay, maybe this is a turning point for things to turn around, because I thought that they didn't come out good early, but I thought they adapted very well as the game went on.
Yeah. It's just frustrating, just seeing this game, seeing this season, seeing the last 3 seasons. It's just frustrating to see the Sharks play as it is. But to get it within 4-3 was interesting. Then DeHaan takes an interference call, and then Magna takes a puck over a glass call, but Magna would make up for it, finding the loose puck, getting it home to tie it up at 4-4. I'll give the Sharks, kudos for being resilient down in this game. They clawed their way in this one.
Yeah, look at when they came back and scored the 3rd goal, obviously that was big, right? Because at this point, man, you've lost 7, they're up by 2. Really, you're on the road, it's easy. It would have been so easy to just whatever, coast through the rest of the game, drift softly into the night. Like that would have been the easy thing to do. But obviously, hey, look at losing sucks. No one wants to fucking lose all the time.
No.
These guys are pride, right? Like, again, players don't tank, organizations tank, players don't. So I give them a lot of credit for clawing their way back into this one and doing it by, again, the Magna goal's another one where they took advantage of some juicy rebounds getting left by Lincoln, and that gave them 3 or 4 more opportunities with the puck than maybe you get from another goalie. And you got to make those count. And I thought the Sharks did that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they played fairly well in overtime, even though they got outshot 4-1. But I thought they had a number of chances that could have gone in that just missed. I know Barabanov had one. I thought they had some glorious chances in there, and they outshot the Hawks 37-22.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, DeBrincat was the only scorer in the shootout. And I know.
Yeah, shifty move. Shifty move by DeBrincat, and I think James Reimer probably would like that one back, but it's a shootout. It's a one-on-one situation. It's it is what it is at this point. We probably have to talk about the Erik Karlsson shot, and I thought Drew Remenda broke this down really well. It's not a terrible play.
No,
like the problem is where he shot it from, and probably the angle he got on it, because look at the play most players are going to make is they're going to either fake that shot and come in and deke, or they're just going to come in and try and deke, right? Like that is your go-to shootout move. And sometimes it doesn't seem like it would be a high percentage play, but if you put that in the right spot, you can get your goalie sleeping a little bit, because goalie's waiting for you to come in nice and tight and and try and deke him out of his pants. He's not waiting for the slap shot, or if anything, he thinks he's probably thinking, oh, that's a fake shot, where are you going next? So I don't hate the play. The problem was Karlsson got a little too close to take that shot, because of the momentum. And obviously, look, you can't completely stop and you can't go backwards, we know the rules to the shootout, right? But I think at that point, if I'm Erik Karlsson at that point, game on my stick, and I get that close, I might, probably fake that shot. But I'm not Erik Karlsson, right? Maybe you fake the shot and go for the deke after all, but I think that is the play the goalie
kind of
is expecting. Yeah. So I don't hate the move. Mm-hmm. I don't hate the move. I just maybe wish he didn't get so close and maybe got it more, maybe picked a better location to shoot at. But I don't hate the move. It is what it is.
And if I'm not mistaken, he used that move last year, and I want to say it was against Minnesota. I might be wrong on that, but he had that 2-goal game where the infamous "not even close" comment came from. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure he used that in a shootout, and it worked. So I don't blame him on that. I
don't hate the move, and I know people, they're just gonna be mad because I'm not AJ and I'm not just tearing him a new asshole right now. But you can wait till Sunday for that. It's cool. It's my mic, so I'm gonna say I don't hate the move. I don't hate it. You can tell me in the YouTube chats how much of an asshole I am and how I'm on the wrong podcast and blah 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 blah. But I don't hate the move. I just hate where he decided, where he ended up shooting it from. I think I wish he was a little more aware of where he was and how much distance he had to the net, and maybe fakes that shot and makes a move, or picks a better spot to shoot at. But it's done.
It's done. The Sharks' playoff chances are done, and it leads to one question from Sharks Last here. It's time to eat the entire box of Thin Mints, right? Can I have ice cream too? And I am totally down with Thin Mints and ice cream. That Puck Mom agrees with you. I think it's time for the Sharks to go back watching team videos of how to play as a team and play in sync and learn. I
think they just. I would just for me. I think, look, at this point in the season, they've watched all the video they need to watch. And I think, obviously, these guys have known they've been playing for nothing for a while, right?
Right.
So for me, what I want to see is simplifying the game. I would like to see I mean, these roster decisions will make me scratch my head till Bob Bugner's eventually fired mercifully. But like, I just want to see more guys getting opportunities. There's no reason now. There's no reason why guys like Milosh and Magna should just constantly be in the lineup. Like, these guys are guys.
Right.
And maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe they're NHL defensemen, but I think they're guys.
They're guys to fill in for a team that had no Nikolai Knyzhov all season, who's had Radim Šimik up and down all year. Maybe having Santeri Hataka or Hataka or however you want to call it.
I mean, you have nothing to lose now, right? Like, obviously, like, look, you're not going to bring Bordeleau in, right? Because he's only on an ATO. They're going to wait till they can sign him to the ELC for next season.
Right.
That's the play there.
And we'll get
so
to more.
You're not going to bring him up and burn a year of his ELC for what? To miss the playoffs, and then the Barracuda are also going to miss the playoffs. So, like, the ATO's the play there, right? But there are guys that they could probably throw in, and because again, you should be seeing what you got, right? Except for the problem with that, I guess, is that Bob Bugner's still the coach, so it doesn't matter what he sees from any of them. He's got his guys, and that's it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Couture. We'll get to some of the comments now from the locker room. Couture.
Yeah.
33 years ago, 33 years old, on personal disappointment of the Sharks being officially eliminated tonight. It's one less year you have a chance to win it, and I'm getting older, so it hurts more and more each year.
Yeah, man, you only get so many cracks at the big silver shiny thing.
Yeah, and that's a tough one because we all know, and the last time the Sharks went to the playoffs in 2019, Couture was just on fire.
Yeah.
That one kind of hits a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look at you don't grow up as a kid dreaming of missing the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not what you want to become. I want to become a professional hockey player so I can miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
When I grow up, I want to have 23 goals and my teammates are.
I want to make $6 million, but miss the playoffs every year.
Yeah. Bob Bugner on being officially out of the playoffs. It's disappointing, obviously. The biggest issue was losing our most offensive player. We had a month and a half where we were missing key veterans.
Yeah, and sure. You bumblefucked a bunch of really dumb lineup decisions and thought, well, we're having trouble scoring, guys, so maybe we should play Gadjevich and VL together.
Right? I think that's a great idea. And then better yet, let's scratch Jonathan Dahlen so you can play Radim Šimik on the fourth line. That makes sense. I mean,
right? I don't know. Like, Jonathan Dahlen, I'm glad you brought up Jonathan Dahlen because Jonathan Dahlen has had a rough second half of the year. I saw a jerk talking about how, wondering if maybe Dahlen hasn't recovered. And it was the shoulder that he hurt, right? Like, it was a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Shoulder injuries are the worst. Like, for a shooter, man, shoulder injuries are death. So, there's probably, I wonder if there's a little bit of credence. I don't want to come off like I'm making excuses for Jonathan Dahlen here, because I think he probably needed to be he did need to be better this second half. But, like, again, okay, so that can be true, but two things can be true at the same time, right? Like, we know what you're getting from Noah Gadjevich and Jeffrey Viel, and a number of times that those guys both slotted into the lineup, you're not getting offense from those guys, right? So, I mean, that's an issue.
No, the tough part overall is when you look at this lineup, it's like nice to have Reedy get a goal tonight. I'm just going through the list here. It's frustrating to see, Gregor just be on the roughest stretches of luck possible. Balsers gets the 9th goal of his season tonight.
I like Noah Gregor, man, but if he can't finish at the NHL level, at some point, you have to pull the ripcord there too, right?
Exactly. This is where I think a lot of us, I think yourself included, have been asking, okay, do we get a chance to see Joachim Blichfeld get his shot now?
Yeah, I mean, and Joachim Blichfeld's been around long enough now that he's probably the chances of Joachim Blichfeld becoming an NHL player at this point are small, right? Because he's been around for a while now, and whether you think that he's gotten the right opportunity or not, I mean that, we can argue that all day, and I would argue that he probably should have gotten more of a look, but the chances of him converting to an NHL player at this point are at least a productive one, right? That's right. Just not being, and I like Joachim Blichfeld, don't get me wrong, man, but like, again, kid's getting up there.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, is that, you get so many shots at it, and I'm surprised that how many shots Gregor has had. Meanwhile, you've seen why am I blanking here? You've seen Balcers get scratched. You've seen why can't I'm blanking on names now. Dahlin getting scratched so many times. Gregor, yeah, he has some good speed. Has probably a little bit more defense.
Gregor's done a lot of things well. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to I don't want to take a dump on Noah Gregor here. No. I just wonder if Noah Gregor's a guy who, if he can't finish at an NHL level, like sometimes you got to make adjustments to your game, right, to be able to fit into an NHL lineup. And I just wonder if Noah Gregor's a guy who if he could focus on the more, like if he could really excel at the defensive side of his game, like I think Noah Gregor would be a hell of a third line guy. Or like even like if you know what I mean, like
right.
who has some offensive chops, but like I don't know, like is he a top 6 forward? No, I don't see it.
Yeah, he's got the speed to be top 6, but the finish.
He's got the speed and the
6.
hands and everything, but it's just but the puck has to go in the net at some point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So Dan Meyerson saying, "Someone please help Noah Gregor finish." There's that. Continuing on with the locker room quotes. A lot of turnovers for both teams, too much for our liking. We fought back to send it to OT, but couldn't find a way to beat the goalie.
I think I'm going to do it. I'm just seeing AJ's thing about changing my Twitter handle. I think I'm going to do it.
What?
It's going to be Bumblefuck Hockey.
No.
Because honestly,
no.
When is the last time I've written something with any consistency? Like at this point, it should be like Ian Vlogs Hockey, I guess.
You could just change that one letter, or get your second account going.
I like Bumblefuck Hockey might be a new Twitter handle, people. God. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Oh boy. Oh, Angry Canadian Robot, and now Bumblefuck Hockey. That's great.
Bumblefuck Hockey. Love
it. It's not easy to have fun when you're losing, but we love playing with each other. Phrasing.
It would also be like really apt for the way that I actually play hockey too. So it would just fit in so many different ways.
What position do you usually play?
I mean, wherever I can skate the puck to.
Okay.
It depends. Like I've done it all. Like I haven't played defense because who wants to play defense? Got to skate backwards to play defense. I can't skate backwards.
Oh, well,
barely.
I mean, there you go. You might get a try with the Barracuda.
I can strap on some goalie equipment, and I love doing that. And I can also play forward and chase around the puck a lot.
All right. So you can pull a Freddie Anderson like he did the other night in New York. Perfect. Nice. Couture, it's not easy to have fun when you're losing, but we love playing with each other. We work extremely hard during practice, and we work hard as we can. I mean, two things can be right, but that's the tough part. And it's just tough. Couture, continuing. We had some great A's, and we're not scoring on them. We have good looks, but we're not beating the goalie. Obviously, again, scoring. Yes, he put four in the net tonight, but it's been a rough go for the Sharks.
I mean, offense has not come easy. I thought tonight they did a good job of adjusting their game, and those last 2 goals really showed the adjustment, that they made adjustments, which have been rare for this team this year. Offense has been really hard for this team, and I feel like, there's been a lot of in the media, there's been a lot of water carrying for Bob Boughner and how he's coaching with one hand tied behind his back. Man, he's the motherfucker that tied his hand behind his back in some situations.
Do you think when a GM is named, Bob's gone, or is he on a short leash going into next season?
GMs generally want their own guy, right? So if a new GM comes in, I mean, I can't imagine unless somehow they go through the search and decide, you know what, Joe Will's just fine. Then maybe Bob Boughner can survive that. But I don't know, man. Like Bob Boughner, look at this guy has never had a winning season as an NHL coach.
And look what
this team is going to, if they think that they can turn this thing around quickly, I don't understand. Again, the problem with this team is loyalty to certain guys, and I think Bob Boughner is in that camp.
Yeah. And you look and see how Florida's done since he's left. Awkward. No matter who
I mean,
look,
I don't know. Like, I think Boughner could be a guy. Like, I don't think he's going to go anywhere this summer, but if the Sharks are super ass next year and a new GM's in place, I wouldn't be shocked to see them pull the trigger then, right?
Right.
But I think he's safe this summer. And I'm not advocating for that. That's if you're asking me, that's my answer. I think he's safe this summer. I think he starts the season on the bench. If there's a new GM in place, which I hope there is, because you don't want to go through an entire summer without a GM in place, because that's really dumb, right?
Right.
And the Sharks have a benefit this year. Like, free agency doesn't start until like the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, right? Like, it's
like the draft isn't until like the first or second week in July, because they're
right?
Still
Yeah,
trying to catch up.
Right, yeah. So like, I think free agency is like what, the end of July? They got time.
I'd have to look it up, but I believe mid-July.
Mid to July, yeah. So like, they've got time to get a new GM in place. I think Bob Boughner probably starts on the bench next year, but I think that leash is going to be very tight depending on who the new GM is, and that's going to change the entire look of the franchise, hopefully.
Yeah, July 13th at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern is the one when they come out for free agency. Let's continue on with some of the comments here. Shimmick left early. It was a lower body. I'll find out more tonight. So we'll see what's going on there with Redeem. That means potentially, I guess, Jonah Gadjevich gets back into the lineup potentially against Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Boughner going on. We were really short-staffed in the first, and I think it took its toll, but I thought everyone got an opportunity.
Yeah, look, obviously when you dress 7 defensemen and lose a forward, that's not ideal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you lose a defenseman too. Obviously not ideal to lose a forward when you've dressed 7 defensemen and you won't play the offensive ones at forward. Don't start this Burns to forward shit again. I'm not saying that, but in that situation, like, you've kind of done it to yourself. No.
Yeah. The first couple of periods were weird. I had a couple of odd shifts, got into some penalty trouble. It was sloppy for both sides. Yeah, I think that's pretty simple there.
Sure.
Couture, another zinger tonight. Maybe we saw where they were in the standings and thought it might be an easy one. You lost 7 in a row coming into it. I don't think this should be considered an easy
There's
one.
no easy games at this point, especially when you're facing a team that's on like the same path as you. Like, I think it would be, I don't know. I don't think either team looks at this one like, oh, this is where, this, like, you want to turn around because the losing, obviously, like, York and it's really rough to be on a losing streak like this and then lose to a team that's also, that has a longer losing streak than you did.
Yeah.
When you started the game, right? Like,
right.
That's never ideal, and that's not something like that's nightmare fuel, I think.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Sharks are within 1 point of Detroit for 9th place in the Tankathon.
Yeah. Let's go Red Wings.
So we can do a Tankathon. I think at this point we kind of have to, because the Sharks are done. The Sharks are officially eliminated from the playoffs. If you're just joining us, all right. So I have the Tankathon on here.
Okay.
All right. The Sharks are currently in the 10th spot, and let's see here. and they stay in the 10th spot.
Well,
Montreal
you
and
win some, you
Philadelphia.
lose some.
Yeah, Montreal and Philadelphia move up 1 and 2 spots respectively to get it. Chicago, by the way, has their pick go to Columbus. I think that was part of the Seth Jones trade.
Yes.
So Columbus is picking number 6 in that one. So that's an interesting one here. Another one in the chat that we saw in here, MES. I'm just gonna call you MES because I'm afraid to get really mess up the name. But thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Sharks fan living in Oklahoma. I follow the Sharks hardcore from 91 to 04. Oh, there were some good times there. But I've lost touch since. I'm taking my son to the game in Dallas on Saturday. What should we know about the prospects? I know Dana. Thank you, my dear. You talked about Merkley if he gets to play, but
yeah, I was gonna say, what can I tell you about the prospects? Bob won't play them.
I need a rim shot on my sound effects board.
There you go.
Here, I'll give you applause. There you go.
Bob won't play them. Yeah. I mean, look, this season is rough, right? But there's some hope coming, right? Like obviously, Thomas Bordeleau played for the Barracuda last night. He's on an amateur tryout, so he won't obviously be dressing for the Sharks this year. But I'm curious to see what he can do in camp. I think he's a threat to make the roster. William Eklund is great. Did he have this season in Sweden we hoped he would have? No, but there's still anything that I watched, which wasn't, I'm not going to say I watched a ton, right? But anything I watched, like, I'm not worried about his game. The team was not particularly good that he was on, which never helps anything, obviously. But yeah, there's a bunch of guys that are going to probably turn pro this offseason. That'll make the Sharks interesting, right? Now, are all these guys going to make the Sharks at a camp? Probably not. But the Barracuda will be infinitesimally more interesting to watch next year than they were this year. And again, I don't think that the Sharks are going to be somehow on the road to the Cup next year. So that's what made this season so hard, right? And I was like, because before the season started, right, I was like, oh man, because I knew Lacey was going to be busy a lot this year, and I'm like, I could do the Barracuda, and I'm so glad I didn't. Like, I'm so glad I didn't put the time in, because look, I mean, there's nothing worse than watching the big club struggle than watching the big club and the baby club struggle for a lot of the same reasons.
Yeah.
That's rough, right? Like I remember it's better. It's obviously, it's better to have one do good. Like it's really hard if you're a Sharks fan and like all you know is the Barracuda and you're not really paying attention to juniors and college and everything else. You'd be thinking after watching the Barracuda this season, man, the Sharks are fudged. Like they are not doing anything ever, right? Because the future doesn't look particularly bright when you see the Barracuda are also out of the playoffs in the AHL. Next year, that's not going to be the case. I think the AHL team is going to be very good. Are they gonna run the division? I'm not going to say that, because I still think there's going to be a few question marks. Obviously, we have to see if a guy like Magnus Krona, who just won the national championship in Denver, if he's going to turn pro. If he turns pro, well, then I think, that's an interesting prospect. That's an interesting goalie prospect I'm interested in watching, right? Mm-hmm. Next season, if it's the Alex Stalock and whoever show, like that doesn't really excite me for the Barracuda, right?
Right.
I'm not sure who's going to play on the Barracuda blue line either, but they should score buckets of goals next year in the AHL.
If you were running the Sharks, would you have Ben Gaudreau come up pro, or would you leave him in Sarnia again? I'm not sure about his eligibility.
No, because so here's the thing with him, right? Like, no, you're not rushing him, because because of his age, like he'll only be in his D+1 year, so he has to play in the NHL.
So it's NHL or
OHL. There's no There's no sending him to the AHL, and honestly, you don't want to you don't want to play him in the NHL,
right?
Right? Like Ben Gaudreau is going to be a guy who we're going to talk about in a couple of years, I think, right? Like next year he's going to go back to Sarnia, or maybe he gets traded to a contender, who knows.
Right.
And then he's going to come to the Barracuda, but even then, like Ben Gaudreau is a guy I could see playing on the Barracuda for a couple of years before he sniffs the NHL. And that's the way it should be, right? Like even a guy, like a lot of guys don't make that jump to the NHL right out of junior, right? Like even a guy like Igor Shesterkin spent time in the AHL. The AHL's fine for goalies. I think that the Sharks would do Ben Gaudreau a huge disservice by moving him to the NHL before he, because I like Ben Gaudreau. Like I like the pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
you don't want to rush him, and usually
I don't want to I don't want to bum people out, right? But like Ben Gaudreau, and like he's a decent prospect, but he's not like an A++ super goalie prospect. He's just not that. Like I think there's some brake pumping that needs to be done there. I think Ben Gaudreau's done really good on a really shitty Sarnia team.
Yeah. But
like goalies are voodoo, but I think like again, you let him take the time he needs, and there's no rush for Ben Gaudreau.
Yeah. So this is where the offseason is going to be really interesting, because you have to make a decision on Kakinen. You have to figure out what you're going to do with Adin Hill. Do you trade James Reimer, who's saved your butt in net all season long? It remains to be seen what's going to happen.
It's going to be interesting, because the thing is if they are going to go, I think Kaapo Kakinen, bringing Kaapo Kakinen in, I don't think they do that to just not qualify him and let him walk as an RFA, right?
Right.
I don't think you make that move if maybe they're not happy with what they've seen from Adin Hill. And look at Adin Hill had some really good games this year, but he had some real stinkers too.
Right. It's funny enough that his last game, he comes back for one game, gets a shutout. Yeah. In fact, I think isn't that the Sharks' last win, if I'm not mistaken?
Jeez. It feels like so long ago.
You keep talking.
Yeah. So I don't know. I look at like Adin Hill. I mean, obviously health is kind of always been a thing with Adin Hill too. Like I feel like this isn't new. Like the injury issues aren't new with Adin Hill. So Kaapo Kakinen's a guy that I like. Again, do I think he's like going to be, this super starting goalie guy? No, I think he's a good tandem guy. James Reimer is a good guy to tandem anyone with. I like James Reimer just for the fact that, like, I feel like if the Sharks are going to find the next guy, they have to steal the net from James Reimer. Like, if you can do that, and because James Reimer, like, again, is James Reimer going to win a Vezina anytime soon? No, but has he been a respectable goalie in this league? Yeah, he has. So if I'm the Sharks, I just, I want to see who's going to take James Reimer out of the net and take the net, and run with that ball. Is that going to be Kaapo Kakinen? I hope so. I don't know. I've liked a lot of what I've seen from Kaapo Kakinen. I think he's only really had one bad game since he's been here. I feel bad that he hasn't gotten a win yet. I understand that, everyone's like, oh, the Sharks need the losses more than Kakinen needs the win, idiot. Yeah, okay, I get it. Team tank. But like, just from a personal level, man, like the way Kaapo Kakinen's played since he's got here, man, the guy deserves a fucking W.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, I feel like he's earned a W better than he's gotten in the last few games. Like, I understand that no points is better than points for the Sharks at this point. I'm not an idiot, but like, you can still look at the guy and be like, man, like, it would be nice to see that guy get a win.
Agreed. I mean, he's played really well in his starts. I mean, I think there was like one start where it was a hiccup, but I think he's played fairly well to get the W. Last Sharks win March 26th against Anaheim, 4-1 win with Reimer in net.
It was 83 years ago.
Before then, March 22nd, they beat Calgary 4-3. How? I don't know now. And then back on March 17th on St. Patrick's Day was the victory 3-0 over LA lost, or LA beat them 3-0 on St. Patrick's Day. It was March 12th where Adin Hill had the shutout.
Yeah.
So let's keep going with the chat here. If you're just joining us, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button down below. Sharks are been eliminated from the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. They miss it for the third straight year. Sasquatch.
That's wild.
Sasquatch, thanks for tuning in. Watched your videos before. Appreciate it. All the best to you and your YouTube venture. Denton was at the game tonight. I got to see the Vlasic cousins first glance at each other on the ice, and it was a cool moment, especially how Alex is like 20 and is already 100 times better than Mark-Edouard Vlasic. Oh, boy. That's something that I wasn't expecting. Alex Vlasic, I wonder if they call him Pickles in there. So
it's a good question.
Yeah. Alex Beltran, why is the Evander Kane grievance case taking so long? That is a great question.
Because everything in that sphere takes so long, man. All these business disputes and lawsuits, like all that stuff always takes forever. That is just the speed at which these things move. I'm not surprised. I wasn't expecting that to be resolved before the summer. So this doesn't surprise me. I feel like everything that has to go through courts or mediators or stuff like that, these things turn at a glacial pace.
Yeah. Dana, thank you for joining us. His sister Emma Vlasic plays in the PHF.
There you go.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, all over the
Vlasics are taking over.
Yeah. So many pickles in the pickle jar, as she says. One thing from Chester Chivo, I'm sick of Bob's excuses of losing players to injury. Ask Vegas how they're doing with injury, and they're 2 points out, dumbass. I hope you're not calling us dumbasses, Chivo, after all these years.
Jesus. Well, I mean, yeah, like, I don't know, man.
A lot more talent.
Vegas has proven the salary cap isn't real. Like, yeah, two different teams in two different spots, right? And don't get me wrong, Vegas has lost some big pieces for certain stretches of time, but I don't know. The salary cap isn't real. It's a boogeyman they made up.
Boogeyman. That's a good one. And we have a boogeyman that can't coach too well. So with that, the reason why the Sharks got eliminated was Dallas got a point tonight in their overtime loss to Minnesota. So they're at 89. Vegas is at 87, playing one more game. Vancouver, Winnipeg, I think they're just starting to run out of time.
Yeah.
There. But any surprises in the West or for the East, for that matter, as to how this thing is shaping up? I mean, the East has been pretty much set since January.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think what surprised me about the East is just how quickly it was basically locked up.
That's crazy.
It's been locked up for quite some time, right? Like, I think the Islanders, who had just a hellish start to their season, it's credit to them for climbing to the top of the missing the playoff teams list, because when the season started, they were not good. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of, for the East is a big mess. If you look at these teams, it's the haves and have-nots. Yeah. It's never like, it's so clear in the East, man, who has and who doesn't in the East. So I'm surprised at how quickly it's locked up. But then at the same time, when I look at like who's after Washington, like, again, the Islanders had a hellish start to the season. Yeah, Columbus, Detroit, Buffalo, Ottawa, New Jersey, Philly, Montreal, all not great teams. I know Montreal was in the Stanley Cup final last year, but not having Carey Price all year kind of puts a damper on things like that. And then the West, I think I'm surprised the way the Pacific has gone. I thought the Kings would be good, but I didn't think they would be this good. I did have the Kings as a team that I thought would be on the rise. And Calgary surprised the hell out of me, because they looked like they were such a mess last year. And I thought that when they brought in Daryl Sutter, and it didn't really seem to have an impact early on. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know how long this is going to last, right? Because Daryl Sutter is a hard guy to play for.
Right.
And there are, like that type of coach is a dying breed in this game, because obviously look at the players make a lot of money and they sign long contracts. So guys like Daryl Sutter can't stick around too long, because if they grade on people too much, then guys stop playing for them and then he gets fired.
Right.
And that will happen again at some point. Not this year, obviously, because Calgary is doing really, really good. Although the one thing that I would be concerned about with Calgary is how hard they've rode Markstrom to the end of the season. I don't think they've needed to do that. I think they're comfortably in the playoffs, and they could probably maybe stop, maybe ease up on the bit there a little bit on Markstrom. But other than that, obviously, I thought it was going to be Vegas, Edmonton jump ball. Yeah. Calgary, obviously a big surprise. Vegas could miss the playoffs, man. And what a yes he also, but what a colossal, in my opinion, because look at this team this summer is going to have to do some serious trimming to get this team actually cap compliant to go into next season, right? And it's amazing how quickly, you see teams where the window closes on them all the time. Vegas took a 5-year window and might have slammed it shut before the season even ended with all the moves that they made.
Which gives you a little bit of consideration as to what Doug Wilson did with this team and stretched out the window as much as possible.
Yeah, because it's easy. Vegas, I think it's the one thing that Vegas showed is just how easy it is to close the window on a team. Going for it's crazy how, but that's what happens, right? I admire their gusto, man, because that team, they're in it to win it.
Right.
So they went, but is in it to win it mean you have to go and buy every new shiny toy that comes up on the market? No, I think you got to be more picky and choosy, right? But Vegas was like, cat be damned. We'll just get everyone.
Do whatever we can,
Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting summer for them, especially if they miss Bill Foley. I think he probably meddles a lot, and I wonder if there's going to be heads rolling, because I'm curious to see how Bill Foley reacts to the team that he has shelled out all this money on contracts for, getting every shiny new toy. If they miss the playoffs, man, I'm curious to see how he responds to that, because I wonder if this is going to be a situation where, this is where, when I said this on the show before, when Doug Wilson got let go, right? Me and AJ were talking about Hasselplattner.
Right.
And this is why I don't have as much hate for Hasselplattner as other guys do, because I don't want my owner meddling and making hockey decisions.
No. Especially halfway around the world for the Sharks' sake.
Well, yeah, but who cares where he's doing it from, right? We have technology. It's fine. But that's what I like. I like the owner that signs the check and lets the hockey people make the decision. Yeah. Now, obviously, the Sharks probably need some better hockey people in certain positions in the front office right now. I'm not going to contest that. And, should that have been done sooner? Yeah, I would argue it should have been done sooner. But I would rather have the owner who signs the checks and tells the hockey people to do the hockey stuff than an owner like Bill Foley, who I wonder how much of his input has really screwed up their cup window.
Yeah. Mike Lydon, or Lydon, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it right. Hey, guys, looks like the Sharks are going to finish with the draft pick around number 10. Any players you like? Anything in particular that's caught your eye for the Sharks? I mean, where do you, I'll put it this way. Where do you think the Sharks go with their first round pick? Do they go forward? Do they go defense? I can't see them really going goaltender. Or
I don't think there's any goalies. I don't like taking goalies in the first round unless they are exceptionally talented. And I don't think there's there's no Wallstead in this first round. So I don't think you go goalie. I don't like draft. You take the best player available at the time. Mm-hmm. You don't draft by position, because you don't know. Because again, look at these guys take a couple of years before they're going to get in, right?
Right.
Now, obviously, this is going to be another pick that could be as high as, we could be as high as 9 when it's all said and done. Maybe they win the lottery, but they're probably drafting in that 9, 10, 11 range. Yeah, there's a couple of players that I like. Like, I don't know if he would fall that far, but like Michigan's Frank Nazar, I think, is a guy that I would, if he fell, I'd like to see them take a look at. Your Gardens obviously didn't have a great season, but it did have some moments, and obviously again chemistry with William Eklund. So if a guy like Jonathan Likermaki, I probably butchered that, but if he was, if he's around there, like I don't hate that for the Sharks either. I haven't really done a whole lot of jumping in yet, but those are a couple of names like off the top of my head, and that I think could go in around that range that that I would be interested in for sure.
Yeah. There you go, and trust me, we have a whole summer to break down what the Sharks need to do. So stick with us, keep us subscribed, especially throughout the season here. You mentioned Nazar was from Michigan.
Yep.
Well, hey, what a great segment! We got to talk about somebody special who played last night.
Ooh, Barracuda.
So Tomas Bordeleau makes his debut. Nice debut. First star of the game. 3 assists on the night, despite the loss. Did you catch any of it? What did you think of Bordeleau's debut?
I didn't catch much of it. I didn't. I missed half the. I got home from work. By the time I got home from work, the game was already like halfway through, and I'm like, do I really want to spend $10 on this? Not really. And then I tried other means, and my ad blocker was just not up to the task. So, but I did talk to you. I did kind of, I read what Lacey had to say. Lacey's kind of been like my go-to. Like anything I've ever said about the Barracuda this year is generally just me paraphrasing Kevin Lacey. Kevin Lacey 22, great follow on Twitter, especially for Barracuda stuff. Like obviously, we haven't done a ton of Barracuda content, but I think he's still a go-to follow for all things Barracuda, and I thought he summed it up really well. So go give Kevin a follow. I mean, from what I saw, from what I perused on the web, obviously everyone was pretty impressed by him. He's a guy that I like a lot. But I'm happy that they're not doing anything silly. I'm glad that he's on the amateur tryout so they can sign him to an ELC for next year when that time comes. It's going to happen. Like, I'm not worried about that. That's going to be how this goes. So they're just giving him the amateur tryout now. That way he can just finish out the season. Barracuda aren't making the playoffs again. So, there's no point burning a year of his ELC for not to play any playoff hockey on either team. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for him, right? And I'm excited for some of the other reinforcements that are going to come in. 3 assists in your first game, obviously coming off, look, he's coming off a huge tournament. So I think he even said himself, like, it's, he was still kind of in that mode, which I think showed last night, even though he said he hadn't skated in like 5 days, but coming off of a big letdown like that to not make it to the final game of the Frozen of the national championship game, like obviously that's a letdown, but you'd never know it by the way he played last night. I thought from all accounts he played really great. I can't speak to it myself. I've only, again, I saw the clips, I saw what other people were saying, but a lot of people whose opinions I admire and trust a lot said all the right things. So I'm excited for the player.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope he keeps it going. Barracuda play Friday at 5 p.m. That's at Sharks Ice in San Jose. So I believe that's only for CUDA season ticket holders. That'll be their final home game of the year. Of course, they closed out their run at the Shark Tank with a 6-3 loss last night to Bakersfield, and then they'll have 3 straight to finish out the year. So it'll be interesting to see how I think there'll be a lot more people watching the CUDA these last few games just to see how he's doing. And then they will open up that brand spanking new arena next year. New jerseys, new logo, new arena. I look forward to the Barracuda getting a plethora of new talent and some depth, let's be honest, because they needed some depth for sure. So... Well, with that, let's wrap this thing up. In case you missed anything or want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and of course, please hit that subscribe button down below. It really does help us out a long way. And always available at tealtownusa.com. So, Ian, thank you as always, my friend. Always appreciate doing this with you. You're at Ian Blogs Hockey for now.
For now, it could be at Bumblefuck Hockey tomorrow because I'm really liking that. And again, I don't write anymore. Not because I'm bad at it, although maybe I was. I don't know. Man, it's amazing like how kids change everything. That's really the reality of it, man. Like, it's amazing how like having children completely turns your life upside down, and I wouldn't have it any other way, obviously, but definitely, I like the amount of involvement that I have now. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
All right. He is Ian Blogs Hockey. I am at PuckGuy14. As for my final thoughts, I'm wearing a specific shirt for a reason here tonight.
Sharks Glass saying the SJ Battery Pack told her that they are making 250 tickets available for peeps other than season ticket holders for tomorrow night. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Heads up.
You can head on to Sharks Ice and potentially go to the game. I think, what is it, at SJ Battery Pack, Sharks Glass. So that'll be interesting to see. Hey, get to see Tomas Bordeleau play in a teal sweater one more time this season. So thank you, Sharks Glass. Thank you, Kathy, for sure. As for me, as I was saying, I was wearing this shirt tonight just as a reminder of where the Sharks once were and where they should be going. But 3 years without a playoffs. Remember that show? Remember that night when we won the West? That was a fun night. We went till,
yes.
I think you were up till 3 a.m. I was up till midnight that night.
That was so normal for me at that point. I don't think.
And the game started at 6 p.m. Pacific that night.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a tough place to be at. Where for the first time in team history, the team has missed the playoffs for 3 straight seasons now. You hope. And with the amount of uncertainty going into the offseason, you hope that this team will find the right way to get it turned around so they can make some more of these Western Conference champion shirts for the Sharks down the road. So with that, we'll jump over to the Discord channel if you aren't already on there. And until Saturday night when the Sharks take on the Dallas Stars. Oh boy, they're playing Pavelski. Oh crap. Keep it real. Keep it teal. Keep it real, Teal. Have a great night, everyone. We will see you Saturday night following Sharks and the Stars. I think they're wearing those weird...
Make it 9. Make it 9.
Good night, everyone.